Imagine stepping across the threshold of the White House's most understated inhabitant, only to be confronted with what can only be described as a startling contradiction. Jill Biden's three-bedroom residence, ironically proclaimed repulsive by sensational headlines, stands as a paradox of modest means and subtle extravagance. It all begins with hyperbole. Media outlets can't stop talking about the grime, the outdated fixtures, the cramped corridors. But is it truly as grotesque as they claim? Or are those sensational adjectives carefully crafted to stoke outrage and clicks? In this deep dive, we're peeling back the layers of gossip to reveal the real story behind this Delaware abode, exploring every nook, cranny, and choice that turned a family home into a lightning rod for political snark. Grab your virtual hard hats, we're about to take a tour that uproots every preconception you have about power, privilege, and the politics of property. And let's be clear, this isn't a humble cottage by any stretch. At nearly 6,850 square feet, the home in Greenville spreads across a generous footprint fueled by decades of family life and calculated design. From outside, you'll find architectural elements that nod to colonial traditions, symmetrical windows, broad porches, and classic white siding that evoke images of quintessential American heritage. But for narrative impact, critics fixate on the faded paint, the slightly sagging gutters, and the landscaped gardens that some say lack the manicured perfection of celebrity compounds. Yet under this veneer of neglect lie glimpses of deliberate choices that reflect a desire for privacy over pomp, comfort over celebrity status. We'll explore the living room where historic portraits once presided, the kitchen where family gatherings wove together memories, and the library where reading nooks remind us that education, not extravagance, was the guiding principle here. Before we step inside, let's compare. The press has juxtaposed this residence with sprawling 33-room mansions owned by other first families. They mention oceanfront compounds that cost more than many workers make in 10 lifetimes. They highlight estates so vast that they have their own names: Jefferson's Monticello, Washington's Mount Vernon, legendary symbols of power and aristocratic heritage. Critics emphasize the imbalance. How can someone who claims a blue-collar sensibility choose a property that, while modest by presidential standards, still sits well above the average American? This tension between perceived humility and objective wealth fuels the conversation. Yet when you dive into square footage and tax records, Jill Biden's home looks less like a cheeky misstep and more like a carefully curated sanctuary, deliberately scaled to family needs. We'll examine where this framing thrives and whether the outrage holds up under scrutiny. Now, please keep in mind that the word repulsive was likely selected for clickbait impact rather than verifiable disgust. Nobody in residence has published photos of mold creeping up walls or rats scuttling across countertops. Instead, we have curated video tours, 3D floor plans, and professional photography. These polished visuals, even as they reveal scuffs and dated light fixtures, cannot convincingly evoke genuine revulsion. So where is that gap between perception and reality? In the next few minutes, we'll dissect every sensational claim, from rumors about peeling wallpaper to allegations of faulty plumbing. We'll cross-reference public records, interior design blueprints, and expert opinions to separate fact from fiction. Our goal is to uncover why this particular home, with its colonial charm and spacious backyard, became a political hot potato, and why the word repulsive might tell us more about modern media tactics than about Jill Biden's actual living conditions. Let's dive into the front hall. The foyer welcomes guests with a high ceiling and period-appropriate wainscoting, but the critics sneer at scuff marks on the baseboards. A closer look reveals that those scuffs echo decades of family passage, holiday gatherings, dog paws, and countless footsteps leading to the living spaces beyond. We'll trace those scuffs to find stories of laughter, celebration, and normal domestic life, details absent from the clickbait narrative. In the great room, natural light pours through wide windows, illuminating elegant crown molding and a custom fireplace surround. Silhouette shadows dance across hand-woven rugs that once belonged to Jill's grandmother, offering a direct line to family heritage. Yet the mainstream headlines fixate on a slight discoloration in one rug's border, a detail that pales in comparison to the room's overall warmth and character. We'll talk to interior design pros who can explain how patina adds authenticity, why perfection can look artificial, and how repulsive transforms into timeless charm when contextualized by the home's human story. From here, we'll move on to the kitchen, an amalgam of stainless steel appliances and custom cabinetry that some reviewers label outdated and dreary. But behind every cabinet handle is a story of adaptability. This kitchen has fed generations of Bidens, from post-graduation celebrations to intimate family dinners after long days on Capitol Hill. We'll break down appliances, inspect countertops, and interview insiders who can tell us whether those quartz slabs and farmhouse sinks meet modern standards or simply reflect practical choices aligned with personal taste. And because every great story thrives on conflict, we'll weigh these practical design elements against the expectations imposed by social media. Do people demand cutting-edge smart kitchens from every public figure? Or is there value in restraint, in rejecting the urge to flaunt ultra-premium finishes? We'll also explore the outdoor spaces. A fenced backyard, trimmed hedges, a modest patio, areas that critics dismiss but that hold the real essence of family gatherings. This tour is just beginning, and the revelations ahead will challenge everything you've heard about what qualifies as repulsive in a presidential household. As we step into the private quarters, a different narrative unfolds, one that contradicts sensational headlines labeling Jill Biden's home repulsive. Behind the grand living room and practical kitchen lies a thoughtful arrangement of bedrooms and baths designed not for show but for genuine family living. First, the master suite occupies a serene corner of the upper floor, its footprint stretching across nearly 1,200 square feet. Soft, muted paint tones offer a calming backdrop to classic hardwood floors salvaged during the original home construction. Critics have pointed out minor imperfections, slight gaps beneath closet doors, a faded corner of carpeting, but these imperfections often tell more about daily family life than neglect. Children's toys tucked just out of camera frame and framed family photos lining a built-in headboard nook remind viewers that this is a lived-in sanctuary, not a sterile showroom. On the opposite wing, a small home gym features mirrored walls and rubber flooring tiles, salvaged from a community center renovation. Resistance bands hang from steel hooks, and 2 stationary bikes sit ready for intense morning workouts. A pull-up bar discreetly mounts beneath a loft ladder, blending into the decor until needed. While tabloids mock the absence of an Olympic-style fitness suite, this minimalist setup reveals a preference for functional wellness over ostentatious display. Finally, let's consider circulation and transition spaces. The hallway corridors, connecting staircases and an open mid-landing. Critics object to narrow passages, but these proportions align with colonial revival architecture, spaces built for light, airflow, and efficient heating. Dark bronze handrails curve around a grand staircase that anchors the home's center, leading visitors effortlessly up and down, without the need for stiff guardrails or sci-fi LED accents. Each turn accentuates a view, a glimpse into the kitchen, a peek at the living room, or a shaft of daylight sliding across the foyer. By now you can see how the repulsive label falls apart under scrutiny. Each bedroom, bathroom, and workspace reveals deliberate decisions balancing privacy, functionality, and modest luxury. We've debunked the myth of grime and decay by highlighting design intent and lived-in details that media narratives conveniently ignore. In the next section we'll expand outward, examining outdoor spaces, gardens, patios, and a modest but meaningful pond, uncovering more contradictions between clickbait hyperbole and the home's true character. Are you ready to continue our tour? As we step outside into the crisp Delaware air, the narrative of repulsive neglect begins to unravel even further. The front yard, framed by a low white picket fence, invites visitors with a gently curved brick walkway leading to the portico's stone steps. Mature boxwoods line the path, their evergreen presence offering privacy year-round, and birdsong fills the air. Critics claim overgrown shrubs and haphazard flower beds reveal apathy, but a closer look shows intentional plantings chosen for low maintenance and ecological resilience. Native perennials such as coneflowers, black-eyed Susans, and ornamental grasses thrive without chemical intervention. Beyond aesthetics, these choices signal a deeper commitment to sustainability and habitat preservation. Rather than a sterile, Instagram-ready lawn, Jill Biden's garden evokes Appalachian woodlands, unpretentious, biodiverse, and quietly flourishing. There's beauty in restraint, and here it blossoms naturally. In the backyard, the emphasis shifts from curb appeal to intimate family moments. A modest stone patio stretches off the rear of the home, furnished with weather-resistant wicker chairs and a wrought iron dining table large enough for 6 but never designed to host lavish fetes. It's a setting meant for breakfast shaded by an umbrella, not grand political receptions. Concrete pavers interlock in a pattern inspired by 18th century courtyard designs, referencing Delaware's colonial past. Facing the patio, a small koi pond adds serenity, a gentle waterfall sound masks traffic noise, and its ecosystem of carp, lilies, and native aquatic plants creates an oasis of calm. Critics deride this water feature as outdated, But koi ponds require a careful upkeep and signify patience, a parallel to a political career built over decades. Here, politics pauses in favor of peaceful reflection. A dedicated garden area occupies one corner of the property, where raised wooden planters house seasonal vegetables and trailing herbs. Basil, mint, and thyme spill over the edges, mingling with cherry tomatoes and heirloom peppers that nod to Jill Biden's passion for farm-to-table cooking. Nearby, pollinator-friendly flowers such as lavender and milkweed invite native bees and butterflies, contributing to local ecological health. This utilitarian space sits adjacent to a compost bin screened by lattice panels, another nod to sustainability that clashes sharply with the repulsive narrative. Walk past the vegetable patch and you'll find a children's play area, a weathered wooden swing set, a sandbox with hand-carved wooden toys, and a chalkboard fence that showcases drawings from neighborhood kids. A simple stone bench overlooks it all, offering parents a place to rest and reflect. There's no guardrail between policy and personal life here. Instead, the Bidens have cultivated a garden that nourishes bodies, minds, and community ties. Call it modest, call it homegrown, but don't call it repulsive. Let's wander down a shaded side path bordered by flowering vines, climbing roses, honeysuckle, and clematis that climb wooden trellises painted in colonial blue. This corridor once provided direct access for Secret Service vehicles. Today it serves as a walking trail where Jill takes early morning jogs, planting tulip bulbs or checking on bird feeders that attract cardinals and blue jays. Emergency egress points are cleverly disguised here, blending into the foliage. It's a living example of stealth security, functional barriers that respect aesthetic continuity while protecting residents. Overhead, festoon lights hang from timeless iron brackets, illuminating the walkway at night without overpowering the stars. It's a poet's path as much as a safeguard, weaving practicality and poetry in wood, stone, and petals. Any claim of neglect evaporates when you consider the dedication required to maintain such organic harmony. Further still, a screened-in porch extends from the home's eastern wing, offering views of the surrounding farmland and distant tree line. This porch features weatherproof draperies, fans for humid summers, and a built-in window bench where Jill reportedly reads letters from community college students. Critics mock the porch furniture, modest rocking chairs and plain end tables, as lacking flair, yet this corner embodies accessibility, a publicly facing space where constituents can gather informally. Seasonal wreaths adorn the doorway at harvest time, and wreaths of rattan and dried hydrangea transform the entry into a celebration of Delaware's agricultural cycles. It's not a stage for policy grandstanding, but a genuine extension of grassroots engagement. Here, political barriers dissolve into front porch democracy, erasing the distance between leader and local. That's the true function of a porch, and it's precisely why this feature contradicts any whisper of repulsion. Finally, consider the home's scale and context. At 6,850 square feet, it dwarfs the average American dwelling, yet remains tiny beside celebrity estates and historical presidential manors. It lacks gold leaf accents, marble columns, or helicopter pads, but that absence underscores character rather than deficiency. Compare this garden-centric layout to Mar-a-Lago's 12 tennis courts, multiple guest cottages, and gold-plated banquet halls, or to Camp David's sprawling grounds and dozens of service buildings, and you'll see a clear line between empire building and domestic contentment. Critics might brand a modest vegetable patch unfit for a first lady, but that judgment speaks volumes about their priorities. In a country grappling with environmental challenges, widening social gaps, and media sensationalism, perhaps a home that champions sustainability, family bonds, and unvarnished authenticity is exactly what politics needs. Jill Biden's residence isn't repulsive, it's a masterclass in understated values made manifest in soil, stone, and living wood. Step inside the seldom-seen service wing of Jill Biden's home, a space critics barely mention, yet one of the most telling indicators of intentional design and discreet functionality. Tucked behind the formal dining room, this corridor leads to a laundry room, pantry, and mudroom cluster that together cover roughly 600 square feet. Whitewashed shiplap walls disguise high-capacity washer and dryer units, while granite countertops double as folding stations. Open shelving displays labeled glass jars brimming with baking ingredients for family gatherings. Far from repulsive, this area highlights efficiency and order. Stain-resistant flooring, wall-mounted drying racks, and built-in ironing boards that slide in and out of custom cabinetry. A second sink, plumbed directly into the household water filtration system, stands ready for quick cleanups after gardening or cooking sessions. Critics who dismiss this space as utilitarian ignore its role as the household backbone, proof that the Bidens value long-term resilience over short-lived glamour. Adjacent lies an expansive, climate-controlled pantry outfitted with floor-to-ceiling shelves and drawers on smooth tracks. Here, bulk purchases from canned tomatoes to organic grains are systematically organized. A small desk occupies one corner, where a house manager tracks maintenance schedules and seasonal food donations to local food banks. This pantry is more than storage. It's the operational hub where private life and public service intersect, enabling family meals that often feed community volunteers. The presence of commercial-grade refrigeration discreetly scaled down to fit residential cabinets signals a commitment to community outreach and hospitality rather than ostentation. Those who rely on sound bites about repulsive neglect overlook these details that speak to generosity and understated capacity. Continuing through a narrow hall, you enter an oversized hall closet repurposed as a vaccination and first aid station during flu seasons and, more recently, pandemic waves. Stocked with protective gear, sanitizers, and medical supplies, it exemplifies the home's adaptive use for public health efforts. Wall-mounted dispensers, subtle but essential, stand ready to serve staff and family alike. It's a microcosm of Jill Biden's dual role as educator and advocate, blending the domestic sphere with community-focused care. Critics who fixate on chipped paint around the doorway rarely pause to consider how this space supported local health initiatives, details that transform narratives of decay into stories of civic responsibility. Next, we reach the garage, a much-maligned feature that became a sensational talking point when classified documents surfaced there. The three-car garage spans nearly 1,200 square feet, yet its true function extends beyond vehicle storage. One bay shelters a meticulously maintained 1967 Corvette Stingray, prized not for flash but for personal history, a gift to Joe Biden from his father, symbolizing family legacy more than wealth. A second bay houses gardening equipment, sports gear, and bicycles that wheel in and out for weekend excursions. The third space serves as a workshop, complete with a heavy-duty workbench, tool chest, and pegboards displaying hand tools, hammers, wrenches, and paintbrushes, each labeled for quick access. Overhead, LED strip lights bathe the floor in even illumination. Beneath, epoxy-coated flooring resists spills. The garage is neither palace nor pit. It's a hands-on extension of everyday life, where work and leisure coalesce in equal measure. Beyond the garage's interior lies the utility yard, shielded from public view by hedgerows and a solid privacy fence. Here, an array of solar panels tilts toward the sun, providing renewable energy that powers outdoor lighting, home automation systems, and certain interior circuits. A heat pump installation supplements a high-efficiency furnace, reducing the home's carbon footprint. Critics accusing the Bidens of neglect never note that this house achieved a silver rating from the National Green Building Standard, a testament to its sustainable upgrades and eco-conscious renovation. Even the installed rainwater harvesting system, channeling runoff from the roof into subterranean cisterns for garden irrigation, got scant mention in mainstream coverage. Yet these features demonstrate that restraint need not equate to waste. Instead, they reveal a commitment to stewardship and foresight. Security integration in the service wing remains invisible yet robust. Bullet-resistant panels line select walls. Behind gypsum board, steel framing intercepts unauthorized entry. A high-resolution sensor network monitors air pressure changes, detecting any forced attempts to breach doors or windows. Cameras, small as smoke detectors, capture 360-degree coverage, feeding encrypted streams to off-site servers. Intrusion sensors embedded under floor tiles near exterior exits detect minute vibrations, alerting Secret Service agents before any threat escalates. This fusion of design and security illustrates the home's dual mandate: warmth for family life and unwavering protection for the first family. Far from mattress springs sagging in disrepair, This residence evolved into a living fortress without sacrificing domestic grace. Now, contrast this with other first-family properties. The Kennedy compound's cluster of guest cottages, draped in ivy and Gold Coast grandeur. FDR's sprawling Hyde Park estate, complete with servant quarters and expansive servant kitchens, Trump's Mar-a-Lago extravaganza, where opulent ballrooms outsize this entire service wing. The Biden's approach, however, prioritizes necessary function over decorative excess, a choice often mischaracterized as modest to a fault. It's a design philosophy that rejects the notion that power must equate to palatial settings. Jill Biden's home, with its carefully zoned service areas, embodies an ethos of pragmatism and care. As you trace this hidden corridor back toward the main living areas, you begin to see how every detail, from mudroom hooks to solar inverters, interlocks to paint a coherent picture of values rather than neglect. These spaces, often overlooked by sensationalist media narratives, highlight how an intentional blend of hospitality, sustainability, security, and practicality yields a residence that serves both family and community. Jill Biden's home is not a site of decline but a model of thoughtful adaptability, hardly the sort of place that warrants the label, repulsive. Now, beyond the bricks and mortar, Jill Biden's home stands at the intersection of private life and public spectacle. Every scuff on the foyer floor, every algae stain on the koi pond, and every stainless steel appliance becomes a talking point transformed into political theater. Media outlets love to frame this home as evidence of hypocrisy, a so-called blue-collar advocate living in disproportionate luxury. But when you strip away the hyperbole, what you find is a narrative far more complex, a house that embodies the tension between private sanctuary and public image, where every design decision carries both personal intent and political ripple effects. Consider the moment when select journalists were invited for a sanctioned tour. Photographers circled the entry hall like vultures, lights flashing, hunting the slightest imperfection. A single water stain on antique hardwood floorboards became proof of neglect. Yet insiders explained that stain as the remnant of a failed upstairs pipe burst, an event handled promptly, repaired by licensed contractors, and hidden from public view to protect residents' privacy. The contrast between what visitors saw on glossy magazine pages and what actually occurred behind closed doors epitomizes modern media's hunger for sensational morsels. In reality, cleaning crews adhere to White House-grade standards every week, pressure washing siding, pruning hedges and refinishing floors as needed. But repulsive sells clicks, well-maintained suburban colonial does not. Then there's the infamous magazine spread featuring a wide-angle shot of the living room, with worn heirloom rugs and slightly faded upholstery. Viral commentators labeled these elements dated or dingy, but design experts note that intentional patina fosters warmth and narrative depth. Those rugs trace back 3 generations. The sofa fabric was chosen because it resists pet hair while offering a neutral backdrop for seasonal decor. In staging homes for publication, elite interior stylists often remove all signs of occupancy: empty coffee tables, spotless hearths. But the Bidens left in children's drawings on the mantel, printed newsletters from the local community college, and a stack of overdue library books by the armchair. The result is a space that feels lived in, authentic, and fully human. Let's talk about the library. Often overlooked yet perhaps the most politically symbolic room. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves house texts on education reform, women's rights and environmental policy, a silent manifesto of the First Lady's priorities. Framed programs mark the graduation ceremonies where Jill Biden lectured, and a small lectern sits ready to display notes for virtual engagements. Some pundits mocked the presence of dog-eared textbooks and handwritten margin notes as clutter. Education professionals see those details as badges of intellectual curiosity and lifelong learning. In a political climate where credentials often boil down to polished sound bites, this room offers a genuine snapshot of Jill Biden's dual identity, educator and advocate. Contrast that with a typical celebrity mansion tour, in which every surface gleams, every cushion is fluffed, and every shelf bears only artful decor items. Those homes invite aspirational envy: sparkling chandeliers, marble floors, gold leaf accents, yet they rarely reveal the soul behind their facades. By comparison, the Bidens' home trades off showy perfection for genuine imperfection, a decision that carries both risk and authenticity. It risks misinterpretation by sensationalist outlets, but it also invites trust from viewers seeking realness over veneer. When the First Lady delivered a televised reading to elementary students from her living room's white armchair, complete with visible wear on its arms, the moment resonated precisely because it was unfiltered, relatable and immediate. Another focal point of contention is the media room. Critics complain about mattress-like sectional sofas and a lack of velvet chaise lounges, but these choices align with the family's viewing habits. A 120-inch projector screen, surround sound speakers and blackout curtains transform the space into a cinematic retreat. Cushions are micro-bead stuffed to resist repeated use, and washable slipcovers allow for quick cleaning after popcorn spills. Hardly repulsive, the space functions as a genuine family media den, where movie nights with grandchildren and policy documentaries with staff unfold in equal measure. What tabloids call budget decor, insiders call future-proof design. It's a reminder that not every public figure seeks to broadcast opulence at every turn. Of course, the specter of classified documents discovered in the garage continues to haunt this narrative. Headlines blared that a family home had become a repository of national secrets, casting a shadow over every square foot. In reality, the documents were found in a secure lockable cabinet space, separate from the family's living areas. Agents confirmed that the papers were stored flat and unexposed to moisture or pests. Yet the repulsive home narrative latched onto this episode, using it to bolster claims of negligence. Separating the emotional punch of that news cycle from the tangible design of the home reveals a key truth: sensational incidents can overshadow years of deliberate, thoughtful choices. Political opponents have attempted to weaponize real estate as a proxy for authenticity,